Squash matches. They've been around since I've been watching wrestling in the mid 80s. They are designed for upper echelon talent to just come into the ring, beat somebody up, and he gets over with the beat down of his opponent. Squash matches happen on purpose. Sometimes they happen by accident. Remember Goldberg and Lesnar a couple years ago? It was played off as an accidental squash, where it was supposed to be a highly competitive match between Lesnar and Goldberg, and then Goldberg whipped Lesnar's ass. So it's kind of like, I want to call it an accidental squash. But most of the time back in the 80s and maybe in the early 90s, you would see a high level talent like the Ultimate Warrior or Rick Rude or somebody. He would come out and he would get introduced to some jabroni, some jobber, some guy who nobody knew, and the other guy would and you could tell who was who. Like, obviously Rick Rude, for instance, he has his entrance. He talks to the crowd, calls them sweat hogs, invites a woman into the match. They make out. He takes his robe off and all that shit, shows everybody, what a real man looks like and all that. The other guy's just standing there, looking like a chump, They get in the match, and Rude whips his ass, hits the Rude Awakening. Match is over. Rude takes the woman back with her, or back with him, and there they go. So these squash matches, the one I just described was basically the ones where it's on purpose. Okay, so I'm making up these terms as I go. This is not like jargon that wrestling has. It's just something I just made up. Okay, so the match we have here is this random ass daily match that I was given to by Chris is Kevin Nash versus Santino Marella. It takes place on Monday Night Raw on December 5th, 2011. And yes, when I say it's a squash, it's a squash, and probably meant to be. I don't think it was an accidental one, so to speak. So before I get into the story and the match itself, I want to talk about Kevin Nash real quick. So he's had this pretty interesting career, been through a bunch of gimmicks, been involved in some infamous moments in wrestling history. So the gimmicks he's gone through, the first gimmick he was Steel of the Master Blasters. Then when he and his partner broke up, he was just known as the Master Blaster, singular. Then that gimmick didn't get over, so he became Oz, which is based off of the Wizard of Oz story. He became Vinny Vegas when Oz didn't work. Vinny Vegas also did not get over in WCW. Oh, by the way, this is all in WCW, by the way. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to not mention that. So then he goes to WWF. He comes in as Diesel. He's a bodyguard to Shawn Michaels. Eventually he gets nicknamed Big Daddy Cool Diesel by Shawn Michaels. He would eventually have some success as Diesel, but Vince McMahon thought he was going to be the guy. He was a big dude, 6'8", 330, 340, big dude. And he looked good, too. I mean, that's what Vince McMahon wants. Some guy who just looks good, and he'll give him the belt. Well, Diesel between 94 and late 95, he had one of the best runs you could ever think of. He won the Triple Crown, which is winning 3 titles in one promotion, including the world title. So in WWF, he won he won the Intercontinental title and the tag team titles, which he held simultaneously, by the way. And then in November of 94, he won the world title from Bret Hart. He would go on to hold that belt all the way till next year's Survivor Series, where he would drop the belt back to Bret Hart. So yeah, so it's just he's the third guy to hold the Triple Crown after Pedro Morales and Bret Hart. Okay, so then he goes to WCW, or back to WCW, and he uses his real name, Kevin Nash, and he forms the NWO, and the rest of his career is based off NWO this or NWO that. That's all he's really known for at this point. So the infamous thing I mentioned, so on January 4th, 1999, he's involved in this angle with Hulk Hogan. I'm not going to go into the details of the match itself. It was just known as the Finger Poke of Doom, and that's one of the widely known infamous nights, because not only did it affect WCW's main event scene, it also affected WWF's, because on that same night, WWF had to tape WWF had a taped show that was airing that night. I think it aired, or it taped on a week prior, so December 28th, I guess. And it got aired on the 4th. And Tony Schiavone got told by Eric Bischoff that to give away the result of that, of Mick Foley's world title win over The Rock. That'll put butts in the seats. So inadvertently, when on two different occasions, WCW was they not only made people switch TV channels to go see Mick Foley win the world title, but this finger poke of doom started the NWO angle for like the third year in a row. Like, it's been revised and revamped over and over again, and this is when business would kind of go down for WCW. If it wasn't before, it certainly was after this, because NWO like 2000 or NWO version 17,414, it's getting to get old. It's pretty stale. Okay, so the Nash in 2011. Okay, so I'm going to go over what Nash did in 2011 because I'm going to talk about Nash in the aftermath. So here's Nash in 2011. He makes a surprise entrance in the Rumble. This is the 40-man one. He comes out number 32. He doesn't win, obviously. He doesn't do much until SummerSlam when he works with Triple H to jump the winner of the SummerSlam main event, which was CM Punk and John Cena. CM Punk beats John Cena, and Nash comes in, power bombs Punk, and that enables Del Rio to come down and cash in on Punk. So then he gets in a little verbal war with Punk. Punk clowns him like he does. Punk clowns everybody on the mic. But at the same time, Nash and Triple H were arguing over what happened, and so eventually they get into it. So Nash wants to fight Punk, but Triple H says, "No, you're not fighting Punk. You're fighting me." So then Nash and Triple H feud as well. So Nash keeps interfering in both Punk and Triple H's matches against various opponents, including tag team matches. Nash would eventually take out Triple H with a sledgehammer, and that will set up a ladder match with the sledgehammer hanging over the ring, coming up at TLC later in December. And Triple H would win that by pinfall. And in the middle of all this, there's a few weeks before this December 5th match, Nash and Santino are in the ring, and Nash is claiming to Santino that he's a mark for Santino's not comedy gimmick, but his character and his gimmick. And he says, "I like it when you come out and do that trombone thing." So Santino does the trombone thing where he's kind of like marching, and he's moving his hands up like a trombone in the air, and he turns his back to Nash and then turns around again, and then Nash just kicks his fucking head off. It's so great. And then Nash does a jackknife powerbomb to Morella. So this match here is basically a revenge match for Santino. So we got Cole and Lawler are on play-by-play. Oh, I'm sorry, pre-match thoughts. Simply put, sorry, Santino. We got Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler on the play-by-play. Cole is reading off tweets, and Lawler pretty much interrupts him and says, "Hey, look at this tweet, Cole." Cole's like, "Which one?" "That one. The one that says Michael Cole is the reason God gave us middle fingers." And Michael Cole's like, "Where is it? Where is it? I can't see it. It's not there." Jerry Lawler's like, "Yes, it is. It is. It is." All right, so we go to the match, we go to the intros, and Nash comes out to his NWO theme. He has a sledgehammer with him, and he puts the sledgehammer on the announce table and gets in the ring. Santino follows him, and I have to admit, I really like Santino Morella's character, and I'm going to talk about Santino in the aftermath as well. So Santino pulls out his Cobra. It's basically a sleeve on his right arm. And he does the joints, and he twists it around and makes it look, like a cobra. And he hollers, "Oh, Nash, I've got something for you, Cobra!" And he speed walks to the ring, that little speed walk thing he does. Okay, so I'm going to set the table here. So Nash is feuding with Triple H. Santino is feuding with no one, sort of. Nash is huge. Santino is not. Nash has a sledgehammer, and Santino has a Cobra. And I'm looking back at my pre-match thoughts, and all I can say again is, I'm very sorry, Santino. All right, so Nash is ready. Santino Marella is ready. The ref rings the bell, and here we go. And I'm sorry to cut you off again. This is a public service announcement. If you're watching this match, don't blink. It'll be over soon. Okay. So the bell rings. Here we go. Match starts. Santino just fires up a little bit, and he charges Nash. Nash responds with a knee to Santino Marella's midsection. Nash hits a forearm to Marella's back. Nash hits a sidewalk slam to Marella. Nash with a big boot to Marella. And then Nash pulls down the straps of his tights and hits the jackknife powerbomb on Marella. And at 1 minute and 3 seconds, Nash gets the 1, 2, 3. And Nash gets the pin. Like I said, squash match. Nash walks out of the ring and retrieves his sledgehammer and gets back into the ring. And Nash begins stalking Santino with the sledgehammer. At this point, I got to say that Santino is doing a great job of with his facials and the flinching and the crawling, and he's doing a pretty good job of being scared shitless of a big dude with a sledgehammer. It just, his character is good, and he's an actor. He's done acting before, so he's just really good at that stuff. And just those little things that just make even a squash match pop a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't be talking about it if it was some nonsense, but I think it's actually really good. And then no wonder he had an 11-year career in WWE. So Nash acts like he's going to hit Marella with a sledgehammer, but instead he puts his arms up in victory, and he gets a little bit of heat from the crowd, a little bit of boos, a little bit of reaction. Okay, I'm down with it. So this match was a squash in its purest form. A little bit of a story here, like Marella wanted revenge for getting his ass whipped by Nash, and he ended up getting his ass whipped again. And Nash used this to get a little bit of heat on his way to fight Triple H at TLC coming up later in December. So, but even though I'm like Santino and Kevin Nash is okay, I'm not the biggest Kevin Nash fan. This was a squash match. There wasn't much going on with it. It was 5 moves. It was a 5 moves of doom match. Pretty much a 5 moves of doom match. So I gave it a 3. I guess I could have gone lower because it was really a nothing match, but like I just like the what happens here. There's like I said, there's a little bit of a story. Santino did a great job of doing the acting scare shitless, and that just elevated up those little things that elevated up for me. And that, as I say, is that for the match anyway. Okay, so a little bit of aftermath stuff here. So looking at this match, I noticed like Kevin Nash had he looked good. Like his hair was dyed black. It wasn't. He didn't have any of the gray showing. Marella put him over as a monster, freaking monster heel here. So I just started to wonder, what if he was like 4 or 5, maybe like, okay, so I'm 45 and he's 52 at this point. What if he was 45 and he was a little bit quicker? He wasn't as beat up. Maybe he hasn't torn his quad 10 times yet. And he was able to actually go in the ring a little bit better than he could at this point. He just was not mobile at all. So, but like his presence was great. The fans reacted to him. And I believe he would have been a good heel. He had guys like Ziggler and Cena and Punk, Kane and Rey Mysterio and Edge, and he could have kept on going on with Triple H maybe because Triple H likes slow plotting matches, so that would have suited Nash well. He could have gone back with Punk, and he could have they could have actually had a match. Guys like Edge and Cena and Kane. So it would have been interesting to see what he could have done. I mean, he obviously has product knowledge. He could be a booker anywhere. He has tons of experience, and he could have helped put some guys over and elevate them. So his second half, I mean, I read it off earlier. Just like I said, it's very interesting what he could have done going into 2012, but obviously we'll never know. I don't think he did much after his match with Triple H after TLC. Okay, so I'm going to talk about another kind of a topic I just was thinking about while I was watching this match, and that's some of the roles that these wrestlers play when they get signed to a company. And they obviously there's ways you elevate yourself, and you can reach up to the top, or you just stay at the bottom. Okay, so there's top guys, mid card guys, and then there's jobbers. I break each of these down into a couple subcategories. The main event guys, I think there's two little subcategories, and one of them is the close the show wrestler. Guys like Hogan, Austin, Cena, they're usually more often than not they're in the last match of the night. usually for the title, that kind of thing. Then you got your attraction main events, like Andre was back in the day, and then now, and more recently, I think Undertaker is an attraction. He wrestles once a year at WrestleMania, and his streak was one of the highly sought things that wrestlers tried to accomplish by breaking it. One of the things that wrestlers sought, and what they sought was to break the Undertaker's winning streak at WrestleMania. Moving down to mid card, you got your mechanic, and he's basically a guy who's really, really good in the ring, technically sound, smooth, crisp. And usually he's used to have good matches with the main event guys, and more often than not, these mechanics don't move up the card very often. They'll have their spot, their time in the their time in the main event, winning maybe a title, like a heavyweight title here and there. Guys that pop out in my mind are Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and even Steve Austin was a mechanic at one point before he messed his neck up. And he always said that he was coming in as a mechanic, and he always thought that maybe he'd get to the Intercontinental title, but never up to the World title. But obviously that was different, and it actually helped out that he broke his neck. And as ironic as that is, another mid-carder is a rising star. Is a guy who's on his way up to the main event, but he has to stop by here to either develop his character a bit more, get a couple of good matches under his belt, get some more heat or whatever he needs. Guys that popped in my mind were Edge and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. They all went through this mid-card tier, winning the tag belts or the Intercontinental title or what have you. And eventually all the main evented WrestleManias. And then you get down to the jobbers. So you have like enhancement guys that are just jabronis. You can just tell just by looking at them, they're just bland. They're probably maybe even like out of shape a little bit, and they're there to take bumps for some upper tier talent. And they always lose. They never win. And if they get in any offense, it's a punch, maybe a drop kick or an elbow, and that's about it. They might get like one shot in before their more higher tiered opponent finally gets the edge, and they just get their ass whipped. So then we get down to, I consider a comedy wrestler as part of the jobber, kind of the jobber category. Because guys like Santino is a comedy wrestler, right? So same as R-Truth, right? So they go in there in the ring, they take bumps like Santino did in this match. He took a bunch of bumps for Kevin Nash, made him look good. And he got a little bit of offense in. More often than not, a comedy wrestler will get moves in because at one point, these comedy wrestlers have been successful somewhere else or at one point in their career. Santino won the Intercontinental title in his first match, but it pretty much went down from there. I think his role really in that match with Umaga was really to perpetuate the Lashley-Umaga feud. So I don't think it was ever taken seriously, but since they were in Italy on that Raw, he was just, quote unquote, handpicked by Vince McMahon to come in and win the match. I think he had a tag title at some point. Oh, I know. Oh, he did. I remember this. He won the Intercontinental title again, and he tried to match the Honky Tonk Man's. Like, oh crap, was it like he held that belt for a long time, like 80 weeks? Let's say it was like 80 weeks that the Honky Tonk Man had the Intercontinental title, and he would always mispronounce the Honky Tonk's name, like the Mr. Honky Tonk Man or the Honky Tonky Man or whatever the fuck, right? And he would have an open challenge, and every week he would win. You'd see a little counter in the middle, on the corner of the screen, and he's like been champ for like 5 weeks. But that's Santino in a nutshell. He's just a guy who's a comedy wrestler, right? So he had his time a little bit, but most of the time, he would be jobbing out to everybody, and he would get a few moves in here and there, but for the most part, he would lose. Almost every match he lost. So, but he was so good at it, and it's weird to think that because in his real life, he has a wrestling facility, he has a martial arts, or he's trained in the martial arts. And so he's a guy who can probably whip your ass, and he's very athletic, and it's almost I don't know what it's like outside the ring, but like going by his character, he's probably like the life of the party more often than not. But he's so good at it. He's took acting. He's been an actor, so like it goes back to the facials he was making. He's just really good at expressing what emotion he has to express, and some of the traits that he has for his character, like he has the unibrow. He does that speed walk and stuff, and that saluting headbutt he has. He'll go off the ropes, and as he's coming down to hit you in your head with his, he kind of does a little about face, like the snap to salute. and then he comes down, and more often than not, he misses it. So he mispronounces names like the Honky Tonky Man, well, I can't think of anybody else, but you get the idea. I didn't know until years down the line after I first saw Santino Marella that he was actually Canadian. And he plays this Italian stereotype to a hilt. Just does it to a T. The accent, everything. So to build the gimmick a little bit, he was told that the story of his life was that he was born in Italy, was raised in Canada, and then would go back to Italy to visit family or whatever. And then not to mention the Intercontinental title win in Italy, got his character off, it got his character going, and it got rolling after that. So, and I can't go any further without mentioning Santino Marella. And that's maybe the only part about his character I didn't like. It was kind of cringe. It's cringeworthy at best. That freaking Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal was kind of a joke. But at the same time, I still love his character because more often than not, he makes me laugh. And that's the whole point of a comedy jobber. And that's his role. And he played it very, very well. So I salute Santino. He always, like I said, he always made me laugh, and I'll watch some of his stuff just to see him get his ass whipped, and it's so much fun. All right, so with that being said, I think I'm going to stop here. Like I said, it's a squash match. Santino Marella. I think he was the star of the match, even though Kevin Nash won, and like I said, I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna come back tomorrow with another one, and I'll talk to you guys later.